Our next speaker requires no introduction. Most of you have probably met him. It's Seth Morgan, former state representative, also the Ohio Policy Director of Americans for Prosperity, which is a free market grassroots organization that's doing a lot of hard work here in Ohio. Another co-sponsor, they're doing the party tonight. Seth is also the owner of MLA Companies. He is the CFO of many companies across Ohio and across the country. And he's a busy man. I don't know how he does all that he does. He spends even his spare time, I don't know what there is of it, but Seth works even behind the scenes for limited government and for liberty and works hard and really is a true believer in the movement, and I'm thrilled that he's speaking for us today.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's enough. It's enough. You're cutting into my time. Thank you all for all that you do for Ohio, for our nation. It really is this movement, you've heard it, that is moving the policy agenda, not the political agenda that we have in restoring our hope. Ohio Energy Resource Alliance, I have to say this to get it out of the way, is not allowed to speak about apparently specific policy issues, but I don't work for Ohio Energy Resource Alliance. So buckle up. It was a long night last night. I enjoyed some fellowship here, and then it spilled over to some fellowship with some liberty-minded folks. And when I got back to the hotel room at about midnight, I found out we were still without power. And for each of you who are worried about your families, our prayers, our thoughts, Dayton, where I'm from, was hit hard as well last night. But a thought occurred to me this morning as I was frankly thanking God for the incredible blessings that we have. And if you think about what we have, it indeed is incredible. That the power was back on, and that I don't live in a country that rations power, yet. We are an energy-rich nation, and we're energy-rich not just from the standpoint of the quantity, but we're energy-rich from the standpoint of the different types of energy that we have. We have fossil fuels, we have nuclear energy, we have biofuels, natural gas, geothermal, and we have coal. Yes, I said coal. We heard it last night. What's the state with the lowest unemployment in our great union? North Dakota. Why? Because they're exploring for energy. But yet with this backdrop, we have the EPA shutting down coal-fired plants, shutting down nuclear plants. Anybody live in the Akron area? Yeah, you guys know what the EPA is doing up there, and if you don't, we'll be up soon to tell you. These folks don't listen to reason. We have rising energy costs all throughout our state, throughout our country, and yet yesterday, our House of Representatives passed House Resolution 4348, otherwise known as the Transportation Bill. You'll be glad to know the Speaker last night did not vote for this. New spending, higher spending, new taxes, but yet no Keystone Pipeline authorization yet again. And unfortunately, it wasn't just the Democrats who voted for it, it was also many Republicans, and that's why, tell Helen I did this, you ought to consider signing the We Demand a Balanced Budget form that's on your sheet. But I've noticed that in our rhetoric today, we like to look at the silver linings. Has anybody heard about the silver linings that we're all excited about? So maybe we can take some silver linings from energy policy. I think we've saved a few spotted salamanders along the way. We have a glut of new green energy jobs that are with us for about maybe 6 months and then they go away. I hope you're feeling better with these silver linings. Ohio Energy. Rebecca just rattled off a whole host of data, and I hope you attend the breakout sessions on this issue. 230,000 Ohio jobs supported by oil and gas. Ohio ranks 4th in drilling, only after Texas, Oklahoma, and Pennsylvania. A study recently commissioned by the Ohio Oil and Gas Energy Education Program suggests that $246 million has been invested in 2011 in oil and gas discovery, and they project another $14 billion spent by 2015. That is, unless the government, the bureaucrats get in our way. We just heard Ann talk about fracking, something that this state has been doing for 40 years, but all of a sudden now it's a political controversy. Hey, maybe we can take a silver lining out of this. I've got a great idea. How about we tax the severance or the extraction of oil and gas, and then we'll just give money away to all of you folks. We'll pick winners and losers. Some of you look at me with disgust in your eye, but you know what? That's exactly what's been suggested, and that's what we're debating again in this state. Isn't it great? You see, unfortunately, the political class doesn't seem to understand something. It's not really how much you tax or whether or not you can stand up and give a speech and rub two nickels together. The real issue, folks, and this may come as a surprise to some of you, it's not their energy. It's not their resource. These are private landholders. This is the American people's energy. This is the American people's resource. This is that farmer in Carroll, Ohio that owns 30 acres that he would like or she would like to explore, and yet we have a government stepping in to stop it. God put those resources there. The state of Ohio didn't. The Congress didn't. Congress wouldn't be smart enough to stick them there if they could. You know, there's not much that came from the Clinton administration that I have much use for, but one thing I think he gave us that applies here. It's called liberty, stupid. I'd suggest the Tea Party have a new motto. It's called liberty, stupid. Patrick Henry put it this way: this is no time for ceremony. The question before our House is an awful moment to this country. For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery. And in proportion to the magnitude of the subject ought to be freedom of the debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth and to fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and our country. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time through fear of giving offense, I should consider myself as guilty of treason towards my country and an act of disloyalty toward the majesty of heaven, not the majesty in Britain, but the majesty of heaven which I revere above all earthly kings. I think if he were here today, he would say, it's called liberty, stupid. Friends, cliche became reality for me 2 days ago as it did for you. But as I sat in my home office after getting home from a series of meetings, and I'd had an opportunity to have dinner quickly with my family, and I slipped back out to my home office and was actually staring at an op-ed that I was reviewing and editing. And my 9-year-old daughter came into my office. They were about to head out to look at books at Barnes & Noble with Mom so Dad could keep working. And we had talked through the healthcare decision. And of course at 9, you just don't really understand these things, but she is my daughter and she's brilliant. And she walked in my office and she looked at me and looked at my computer. And this is not an unusual thing for them to come in my office at home and just touch base quick, but they were kissing me goodbye because they were about to leave. And she looked at me just very sad and she said, "Dad, I'm really sorry." I said, "What for?" She said, "For that thing that happened today." And I thought to myself, you don't know how sorry you're going to be. Unfortunately, cliche became reality. It's for our children, but we heard about these great silver linings, didn't we? This is a political win. And you know what? I have a feeling it will be a political win. I think Barack Obama may have just signed his death warrant with that one politically. But friends, this is not an academic debate about whether or not the age that you can get off your parents' health insurance should be 26 or 18. It's not an academic debate surrounding the maintenance of effort standard in Medicaid. It's not an academic debate about the restriction of the Commerce Clause. All of these, perhaps, except for the age issue, maybe being a silver lining. It's not an academic debate about the restriction of the Commerce Clause and, oh, by the way, the expansion of taxation to new unprecedented levels. It's about liberty, stupid. In our economy today, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, we have beat this to death as a movement. We've got debt rising constantly with things like a transportation bill that seem to have no use. I loved what Jim Jordan said. It's a revolution. Somebody has to get a little pain at some point. When are we going to get serious about this? It's the deficit. It's the amount of taxation. Government should really be taking the least it possibly can to fund the specific duties laid out for it in the United States Constitution. But because they're not, we're stuck, and we have, in some respects, in energy and healthcare, in the economy, we've bought into the bait. The bait is, let's debate that little thing over here. Let's put the silver linings on it. Let's get excited because politically this may feel good for the next 12 months, and ignore the fact that for decades, because the executive branch, the legislative branch, and now, yes, the judicial branch, has failed to understand the basic concept that has breathed life into Americans for the last several centuries, and that is, it's liberty, stupid. This comes from one fallacy, and you know what it is. Our friends, many of them in Washington, if you want to call them that, the liberal elite throughout our country fail to understand who owns that energy under the ground, who owns the health care, the taking care of your body, and even who owns our liberty. We know what it is. We know it was not given to us by an institution, but by God Almighty. We can't continue to stay engaged in academia. We must call to arms liberty. The Tea Party started with rallies, then they've moved to policies, and I am excited about the fact that I think we now are moving to recognizing that the fundamental issue at hand is the issue of liberty. You care about family values, you care about the economy, you care about health care, and yes, even energy. This is not a matter of severance taxes, whether fracking is a good idea or not. It's a matter of who owns our destiny. And it ain't Congress. And it ain't Columbus. Patrick Henry went on to say, and you know the rest, "It is in vain, sir, to accentuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry peace, peace, or silver lining, silver lining, but there is no silver lining. There is no peace, for the war is actually begun. And our problem is we didn't realize the war had begun quickly enough. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we idle? What is it that the gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is it life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains or slavery, or purchased at the price of one conservative, quote, policy versus a liberal policy? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know what course others may take, but as for me, it's about liberty, stupid." Friends, we are engaged. We are engaged in a very fight for the soul of our nation, and nowhere is it playing out more, although it's playing out more in every area, but specifically in energy. Private land rights being encroached upon, resources that God gave to this nation that we are holding back from use for our people. How offended we ought to be. Not because the policies are not in line for us, but because the fundamental idea that has kept this country strong for several centuries has been encroached upon, trampled upon, spit upon, and on the grave of those great leaders of the past who understood this was not an academic argument with a king over a great pond. It was a reform. It was an allowing of the very spirit of the people of America to come forth with the great cry of liberty. May God bless our efforts.